Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Kyoto Bolt fam, it's the director. You know, free agency. I always forget every single season that free agency. I was all getting ready for Wednesday. You know, we're going to see some Chargers signings. It's going to get crazy. I always forget that it's a couple of days beforehand, right? Where the negotiation period begins. You start seeing deals get worked out before they officially get signed. You know, a couple of days later when that officially opens. So today I woke up, I was like, oh, heck, it's going to be an exciting day. I totally forgot negotiations open today. The Chargers, we finally got some money, man. We got, what, $20 million, probably upwards of 30 once we go through with all the cuts and stuff like that. I was like, all of a sudden, the Chargers are back on the table in terms of getting excited for free agency. I've turned on my phone. I'm starting to scroll through, seeing what the Chargers. There's a couple of cool things that are developing. We'll do that in another video here. But in today's video, I want to focus on one big thing of news that I saw early this morning that kind of, let's say, bummed me out. The Chargers and Austin Ekeler are having some complications in 2023. Daniel Popper just posted, we retweeted this a couple moments ago, can confirm that Austin Ekeler is requesting permission to speak with teams about a trade after contract negotiations did not progress. Austin Ekeler wants out. Right now, the timing of everything makes things a little bit complicated, okay? So there's a chance that the Chargers and Austin Ekeler's time may be coming to a close. We're going to talk a little bit about in terms of what's going on with that and what the Chargers can do in preparation just in case they are going into the season with a need at running back. And honestly, guys, it's going to be tough for me because Austin Ekeler is one of my favorite players on the team. He's been one of the most incredible players on offense to watch in terms of scoring in a long time, probably since LaDainian Tomlinson at the running back position. So this is going to be a tough episode, but let's get into it, man. Before we do, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. I got to credit these guys for helping me get into the NBA a little bit. I've always been a one-sport kind of guy, football, and more specifically NFL football. And Underdog has really helped me at least entertain myself with the thought of, you know, throwing down a little bit in terms of paying attention to NBA. And I've been having a good time, man. Go Jazz. It's been a good time. If you guys want to join in on that, use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. It's a great way to support the channel and have some fun along the way. Finally, before we do get started, guys, hit us up with the like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it, baby. Lights, camera,
Action!
Austin Ekeler is requesting a trade. And this is why, I mean, honestly, guys, I was thinking about clumping in a couple of different topics in today's video because there's a couple of things I do want to talk about. Free agency is kicking off. Chargers have some money. Should be exciting. But I want to give this topic its own video. So we may actually see another video today. Who knows? Who knows? But this is an important enough topic that I wanted to give it my full attention. Okay. So before we actually jump into this, also quick teaser. If I do another video today, we are kicking off another giveaway just to give you guys something to look forward to. Okay. I think I'm not going to go too crazy with like the lead up into it. It's going to be a signed Asante Samuel Jr. jersey and a signed. I won't give away the legend player, but the legend player is going to be going to one of our crew members. So keep your eyes peeled out for that. Austin Ekeler. All right, so you guys know the situation. Austin Ekeler wanted a contract extension. It doesn't seem that the Chargers are interested, and it has begun the process of maybe shopping Austin Ekeler out to another team where he can get that contract and honestly, hopefully, get, 3 or 4 years on a deal that makes him comfortable as a starting running back for a different team. Now, to start things off here, before we get into what are the Chargers going to do in terms of replacements, I want to talk a little bit about how important Austin Ekeler is to this team, okay? Austin Ekeler over the last 2 seasons has scored 40 touchdowns for the Chargers. That is the most touchdowns by any skill position, by any player in the NFL, by a long shot. I don't remember who was in second place, but I think it was something like 29 touchdowns, something like that. That is absolutely ludicrous, dudes. So before we start breaking down, like, who are we going to get to replace Austin Ekeler, this and that, I want to pay respect to the player Austin Ekeler and what he's done for this team, and how significant of a hit this is honestly going to be. No matter who we decide to bring in to replace him, Austin Ekeler is a very, very important and demanding of respect player for the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be felt, especially if the Chargers don't do it right in terms of who we bring in to try and supplement some of that production. That's absolutely insane. So I guess what I'm trying to say is Austin Ekeler, I don't know if he's watching, but if he is, man, if this is the last time we saw you as a Los Angeles Charger this last January, I got to say, dude, we are going to miss you. Because, my God, dude, again, even like, especially this last season for me, this guy helped me win a fantasy football championship in my big home league of 11 years. That being a Chargers fan and watching what he's done for the team, it's going to be tough moving on. It really is, at least for me. I think Austin Ekeler is one of the most underrated players maybe in NFL history. You could list him among a whole bunch of them. I think in Chargers history, maybe a little bit. I think the Chargers fans know what they got. But I'm gutted. I'm gutted at the thought that the Austin Ekeler may be moving on from the team this year. That's absolutely crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Now, what are we going to get in return in terms of compensation, right? Let's say a deal cannot be made, right? Let's say that the Chargers and Austin Ekeler, they can't come to a compromise and he is going to be shopped out. There's two things that could happen. One, there's a team out there that's going to trade for him, a running back in this market, which honestly, I don't know if I see that happening. Or two, the Chargers could release him and maybe free up a little bit of cap space and let Austin Ekeler go and do what he wants to do. Because it's still Austin Ekeler that we're talking about. And we have Austin Ekeler, and I'll be honest, a really, really team-friendly deal. What, $7 million against the cap for one of the best scoring running backs, one of the best scoring players in the entire league. That's really good. So yes, you could cut him and save $6 million. You have to eat that $1.5 million dead cap. But I don't know. It's a kind of a double-edged sword for me because it's the running back position, but it's Austin Ekeler, right? It's a cheap Austin Ekeler at that too. But what team would be willing to? I don't know. You guys have to tell me. There are teams out there that really value that sort of thing. Maybe the Buffalo Bills. Those guys are really wanting to use their running backs as receivers, right? Austin Ekeler does something very, very specific for the Chargers that he could do pretty much for any team, and that's be an elite receiving back and be called upon in the passing game better than pretty much almost anybody else in the NFL. I would say everybody but Christian McCaffrey. It's Christian McCaffrey and Austin Ekeler. Maybe Alvin Kamara used to be in that conversation a few years ago, but no, not anymore. It's Ek. Okay? So I guess what I'm trying to get at in this first segment here is what would we get back for Austin Ekeler? Well, I can maybe see a team that understands the value of Austin Ekeler giving us around a third-round pick. That's kind of on the high side, if I'm being honest, man. If we get super lucky, maybe we can talk second. But I'm thinking third is where I feel most comfortable. In terms of having to let go of Austin Ekeler and getting some kind of compensation back, that seems fair. But I'll be honest with you guys, it could be lower. Because Austin Ekeler, when a player says that they want out, what that does is it affects their price, right? It affects what you can get back from them in terms of draft compensation. So teams knowing that Ek wants out, knowing that the Chargers could use some extra cap space, knowing that the situation is what it is, it could dictate a much lesser price for Austin Ekeler. So all I'm saying is don't be surprised. Like what we just saw with Jalen Ramsey, right? Jalen Ramsey, he was traded for a third rounder and I think like a backup tight end. That's crazy to me. Okay, and that's because Jalen Ramsey, he wanted out and the team had to accommodate somehow for that, especially with the money that was behind him. The same kind of thing applies here. Not exactly because the money isn't so much a huge issue, but Austin Ekeler does want out, and it will affect his compensation. So I'm going to go out there and say, guys, if we're lucky, we get a third. But more than likely, I'm thinking it's going to be around a fourth-round pick is what we get in return for Austin Ekeler, which, again, it's something, right? It's something. It definitely isn't worth what Austin Ekeler is to me and what he means to this team, but it's something for the Chargers to work with, okay? Now, the meat and potatoes of this video. We got to get into what are we going to do? Because, again, I'm looking on Twitter, okay, and I'm noticing a lot of the comments, And I feel like there's a lot of comments that are excited about getting a new running back, which, okay, I understand that. There are some options out there that are pretty exciting. But it's going to be so hard to replace Austin Ekeler. I'm telling you guys this right now, that I'm hoping the Chargers get something right in terms of supplementing that value. Because if you're not going to go all in for a running back that can do what Austin Ekeler does, you really have to be very confident in what your wide receivers can do. Because Austin Ekeler's been doing the role of a wide receiver for many years now for the Chargers, and he's been one of the among one of the top players on the team in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. So we need to amplify that a little bit. All right. So let's get into what the Chargers do in terms of trying to supplement Austin Ekeler at the running back position if we do have to let him go. Let's start off here with the rookies, okay? And there's a couple of rookies, and I'm not going to say all the rookies because I have these guys ranked from, I think, 9 to 1, okay? So I got 9 players, I think. I would feel comfortable with the Chargers bringing in at the running back position to try and keep that position strong, or at least as strong as it can be without Austin Ekeler, okay? So a couple of rookies to start this list. At 9, I do got Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, and Jahmyr Gibbs, the reason that he's on this list for me is because he can help you do what you were kind of doing with Austin Ekeler, and he is very fast. Okay, so take a look at this. In terms of being what an Austin Ekeler provided the team, I think Gibbs, outside of the number 1 running back in the draft, which of course Bajan Robinson, outside of that, I think Gibbs may end up being the best receiving back in this class. Or I should say now the second best, because of what he can do in the receiving game. And again, if you're looking for that sort of thing again, if the Chargers want to stick to that kind of game plan, I think Gibbs is worth a shot in the 2nd or 3rd round. But the problem here is that the Chargers, if they're looking to the draft for a running back, they're going to have to draft a little higher than what most teams would be comfortable with, if that makes sense. And I would say Jahmyr Gibbs, for me, in the 2nd round would be a bit high, but you would have to do it, right? If you're looking at the draft and you're like, this is the guy we want, this is the guy that's going to kind of come in here and do what Austin Ekeler did a little bit, you're going to have to take him a little high. But what would you get in Jahmyr Gibbs? The dude's crazy fast. I remember he ran a pretty decent 40. He may end up being one of the faster running backs in this whole class, if I'm actually remembering correctly. So he would immediately be in that speed element. I think he end up being actually a bit faster than Austin Ekeler. And Ekeler was not slow. Ekeler was pretty fast himself, but Gibbs is certainly very, very fast. And that's something you kind of work with in the run game a bit too. If you're going to be mixing it in with existing running backs like Joshua Kelly, Isaiah Spiller, Gibbs can give you a flavor of Austin Ekeler without completely bringing that whole system to a very specific niche like it was with Ekeler before. So either way, I think Gibbs, he's on the board for me if the Chargers want that same element on their offense. Now, what would I do? I think the Chargers, there's so few Austin Ekelers out there that I think it's time to change schemes. If we don't have Austin Ekeler, I think you got to change your rhythm a little bit on offense, right? Let the receivers handle the receiving and let the running back handle the running a little bit more traditionally. So at number 8, I actually have this cat right here, Zach Charbonnet. And this guy is awesome. I'll tell you guys right now, if the Chargers don't go in on a running back in the 1st round, I think Charbonnet could end up being a kind of new look at running back for the Chargers that we haven't seen in a while. I would say since the days of, Ryan Matthews a little bit, one of those more traditional running backs. And the reason I like this guy so much is because of his ability. We'll say his physicality, right? I don't know if I've seen very many running backs in this class that refuse to go down as violently as Charbonnet. I think some people have maybe compared him a little bit to Joshua Kelly, which is kind of interesting, but a much bigger, more physical version. Because Kelly is pretty physical, and he's done some good things. I think he was an alumni of UCLA, right? Maybe that's why people are making that comparison. But I think what Zach Charbonnet would do for a team like the Chargers is help them build a new identity in their run game, being very physical, up the middle, being able to rely on that one guy for physical yards as well as an every down kind of role. Again, his role would be more of a bell cow. I don't think very many NFL teams operate like that very much anymore, but your featured guy, I feel like Charbonnet would do a pretty good job. Okay, so very physical, very big, 6'1", 220 pounds. If you Chargers fans are looking for a big physical back to throw in there right away and feel confident about and develop for the next couple of seasons to be that traditional kind of looking back, I think Charbonnet is going to be your best bet in the second or third round. And again, you're probably going to have to take him in the second, which is a bit high for me, but it is what it is when you have a need at running back and you have an idea of what you want. So Charbonnet, he's going to come in at number 8 for me. Now let's get into some of the free agents, all right? And at number 7, I have David Montgomery. The running back class, by the way, if you take a look at here at the free agents, there's some good ones out there. You know, Kareem Hunt, some honorable mentions. Raheem Mostert, very fast. Deontay Foreman's pretty good. But I'm looking for a guy that's exceptional because Austin Ekeler was exceptional. So I don't know if I'm willing to budge more on that. So again, our number 7 guy, we got David Montgomery. Now, Montgomery, he's a guy that, for me, just barely eclipses that exceptional, criteria. Because I don't think Montgomery is a top 5, maybe a top 10 running back in the league, especially given a good situation. The Chargers would give him a very good situation. But he was getting work eaten away from him from Khalil Herbert, right? The other running back with the Chicago Bears. I still think that in another system like the Chargers, because he would be sharing a role with our other running backs, I think he'd be fine. And I do think that he could supplement some of what Austin Ekeler was doing while also bringing more of a traditional running back role to the team. So David Montgomery, he would be okay for me. Again, he's projected a 3-year, $6.5 million contract per season, which you're in and around the realm of an Austin Ekeler anyway, money-wise. So it's not bad, right? It's not my favorite one, but if we went and signed David Montgomery, it would be a good signing. It would be a very good signing, okay? Next up at number 6, it's the pair of Chargers we have on the roster right now. I won't spend too much time on that. Joshua Kelly, Isaiah Spiller. I think we would be okay. I think we would be okay with Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller. It wouldn't be anything fantastic. You would certainly see a dip in production, especially in receiving yards. But both of these guys definitely know how to catch the ball. They know how to run. And I think they're familiar enough with the system that the Chargers may feel confident enough in just rolling into the year with those two dudes. I would be okay with it. But again, I would prefer a signing to supplement Austin Ekeler. So at number 6, I had to put in the in-house talent. All right. Now at number 5, let's say the Chargers really like that identity of a receiving back, more of a scat back kind of system, a scat back kind of thing. We got Miles Sanders, who's a free agent, who might be a little pricier than what I'm willing to fork out for running back, but who knows? The running back market always seems to be projected a little higher than it ends up going for. So I'm hoping that maybe if the Chargers get lucky, Miles Sanders signs for a bit less. I would say $1 million less a season. So around the same as what was projected for David Montgomery. So Miles Sanders. Again, you're looking for the same thing you got in Austin Ekeler a little bit if you sign a Miles Sanders. I think he's an exceptional receiving back. Not as good as Austin Ekeler, but I think there's potential for him to reach new heights with the Chargers if he decides to sign here in terms of his receiving ability. Because I do think he offers maybe a little bit of a similar production on the ground as Austin Ekeler, but he has the potential to reach okay numbers in comparison to Austin Ekeler through the receiving game. So what you're getting out of Miles Sanders, in my opinion, is a budget Austin Ekeler in some sense, right? He's not going to be as good as Eck, but he's going to allow you to keep things kind of the same while also bringing in okay numbers, right? I would say acceptable numbers in terms of what you're getting from guys like Miles Sanders. So Miles Sanders, for me, he's going to come in at number 5, and that's if the Chargers kind of want to keep the same rhythm going into 2023. Okay? So now let's get into the top 4 guys. I would say the top 3 is where things get really interesting, but I actually like this next guy at number 4, and he's probably a little high on my list compared to other people's options at running back. I'm going to go with this guy right here, Jamal Williams. Wow, dudes. This would be a huge, huge left turn in terms of the Chargers scheme. Jamal Williams, big dude, 6 feet tall, 224 pounds. This is your bruiser. This is the guy that you call upon if you want to be a traditional, physical, up the middle kind of running back kind of system. And this would be something different than what the Chargers have been doing for a couple of seasons now. And it's up to the coaching staff and honestly, brand new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, to decide what he wants. And if what he wants is something similar that we had with the Cowboys, be it an Ezekiel Elliott, and Tony Pollard. I think you can accomplish something kind of similar if you bring in a bruising back. Because I think Joshua Kelly, he's decent as a receiving guy. I think Isaiah Spiller, he's decent as a receiving running back. You want that thumper in between to kind of help that formula out a little bit. And I think Jamal Williams may end up being one of the better values at running back that offer that sort of thing. Because again, you can maybe call upon him to be more of a bell cow, more of an every down kind of dude. I don't think that's necessary, though. And I think that he brings enough value in terms of his physical yards on the ground that you don't need to ask him to do that. You bring him in first couple of downs and then let the receiving guys do their thing, or vice versa, whatever. I think you'd be just fine. So if Chargers fans want a nice, cheap option that I feel would be very productive in terms of those tough yards, I think you bring in Jamal Williams to be your running back 1, complemented with the receiving backs of Josh Kelly and Isaiah Spiller. I think you would be interesting. I think it would be interesting to watch. I would think it would be awesome to see the Chargers turn into a more physical running team with the flavor of those receiving backs behind a guy like Jamal Williams. So I like Jamal Williams a lot. Again, he would be very cheap, $4.5 million a season. Something to consider. Okay? Now let's get into my top 3. I'll be honest with you guys. This next dude, I almost put it number 1. And he's nowhere near number 1 on the free agent rankings. But that's how much I believe in this next player. This next player, if we signed him, I'll be honest with you guys, I would be just as excited if we signed this guy as any of the top running backs in free agency. Guys like, I would be just as excited to get this guy as if we were to get Josh Jacobs or Tony Pollard or any of these other guys that have been franchise tagged. Okay, so this next guy at my number 3 spot is going to be Alexander Madison. I know there's some Chargers fans out there that watch my channel that aren't shocked to see this, but let me tell you guys something. You guys want a player that has shades of Dalvin Cook, and there's a reason why he's been such a smashing, amazing backup running back in Minnesota. If you guys want a guy that's literally shades of Dalvin Cook, can do a lot of things Dalvin Cook does, offers so much value, coming in at 24 years old, a guy that you can extend in for the next 2 or 3 seasons if you like a short-term deal now. I would say 2 years is what I would do. If you guys want a guy that I think is going to be one of the best value free agent signings of the offseason, you sign Alexander Madison. I think this guy deserves to be a running back 1, a featured running back in the league. I think every single opportunity he's been given to play instead of Dalvin Cook, if Dalvin Cook goes down or whatever, every single time I've seen this guy handed the ball, he's been nothing short of fantastic. He looks like Dalvin Cook. He's got his own, style, things that separate him a little bit, but I think he was just almost just as productive as Dalvin Cook. And I think this guy screams running back 1 potential. Now, I see sometimes on Twitter, some people say, explain this to me, but in Apex Legends terms or in NBA terms. Like, how do I explain this? So in Chargers terms, this is how you explain it. I think Alexander Madison could end up being the Michael Turner of the Vikings. Does that make sense? Now, what that means is that with Michael Turner with the Chargers, if you remember him, he was a backup running back in the days of LaDainian Tomlinson, even Darren Sproles, right? And he was great for the Chargers, but he had so much talent. He was kind of being wasted as a depth guy for us. Eventually, he goes to the Atlanta Falcons, and he ends up being one of the best running backs of that franchise's history as a running back 1. I think Alexander Madison carries the same potential. So I'm telling you guys right now, if the Chargers don't feel confident they can get their guy in the draft, or they're not willing to trade for another huge running back, I'm all in on the Alexander Madison train, dudes. I think this dude is ready. He's 24 years old. I think he's ready to take on that number 1 role. I would be so excited to see him as the Chargers' featured running back because he does it all. He's physical. He can catch. He's Dalvin Cook. You'd be getting pretty much Dalvin Cook if you sign Alexander Madison. I'm pretty confident in that. Some people would disagree with me. I get it. But every time I've seen this dude run, I wonder why he's not a featured running back in the league. So I like this guy a lot. He's my number 3 dude. All right, and number 2, it's impossible not to talk about this because the Chargers have already been somehow connected, don't ask me how, to a trade for Derrick Henry. How exciting would this be? Okay, guys, I'm not going to lie. Who wouldn't be extremely stoked to see Derrick Henry in powder blues with the lightning bolts, man. He would be sick. He would be such a far left turn from the Chargers system. It would seem like a shock to the Chargers fans to see the whole system change in terms of our offense. Derrick Henry is the offense for whatever team he's playing for. Look at this, dude. 2022, 1,500 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, 4.4 a carry. This dude's absurd. And on top of that, good for Derrick Henry, by the way. He's really improved his usefulness and his skill set in receiving, which is ludicrous to me. You don't ask a guy like Derrick Henry to be a better receiving back, and he's done just that the last couple of seasons. There's a couple of things that do worry me about Derrick Henry, though. Bit older, 28 years old. He'll be I think around 29 when the season comes around in September. So you would be signing an older running back, or at least trading for one, and at the later years of his career, right? Especially for the position of running back. I would say you get 2, maybe 3 seasons out of Derrick Henry. He's got a lot of tread on the tires, man. You take a look at his career as a whole. I wonder if it shows it here on PFF. I don't think it does. He's got to have the most carries in the NFL at the running back position. This guy's crazy. He's got so much work behind him already. That's probably why the Titans are looking to shop him right now. Now, does that mean that Derrick Henry would be a bad trade? It depends on what you trade for him. But no, absolutely not. I think it would be a great trade. Because there are exceptions in the NFL. Derrick Henry, I don't know if he'll have quite the longevity in his career as a Frank Gore, but he seems to be in that special player kind of category where it's like, yeah, he's in the later part of his years in his career, but man, is he good. I think I would be okay with Derrick Henry, the 29, 30, and the 31-year-old Derrick Henry on this team for a couple of years at least. I think if the Chargers, again, if they have an idea of what they want in the first round, they don't want a running back, they have plans. I think Derrick Henry's the best possible option out there, even at his age, for the Chargers to bring in via trade. But again, it depends on what the team wants to do. These are my top 3 guys for a reason. I'll just say that right now, okay? My top 3 guys, Alexander Madison is my top free agent running back, in my opinion, that I would want on the Chargers. Top free agent. Derrick Henry is my top trade running back that the Chargers can go out there and pursue. He's been linked to us somehow. You guys tell me in the comments section. He would be honestly fantastic. You would be dumb not to be excited about him on the Chargers. And then my number 1 overall, maybe replacing Austin Ekeler running back. The number 1 option running back for the Chargers is obviously going to be the big guy in the draft, Bajan Robinson. We've talked a lot about this guy. We've talked a lot about, even with Austin Ekeler being on the team this year, still wanting Bajan Robinson because of the possibility of extending Ekeler and using these two in unison. Bajan and Ekeler would be one of the most stupidly overpowered running back rooms in the entire NFL. Now, that may not happen. We may not even have Austin Ekeler this season. What do? You bring in Bajan Robinson, who does a couple of things for you. Bajan is probably the best receiving back in this draft. I'm going to go out there and say, yeah, he is. I would say he's closer to Christian McCaffrey than maybe Alvin Kamara is, right? I think coming into the league, Bajan Robinson could end up being the number 3 receiving back in the NFL. That's how good I think he is. I think it would be Christian McCaffrey, Austin Ekeler, Bajan Robinson. So the Chargers can keep a lot of the same things on their play sheet. They can keep a lot of the same things in their offense. Bajan can do all the Austin Ekeler stuff and then some. I think he can do the Austin Ekeler receiving work as well as bring in a new complement of plays for the run game that guys like Saquon Barkley can do, that guys like Dalvin Cook can do. This guy, again, like they say here on PFF, completeness, he can do it all. I think he's going to end up being a top 3 running back in the NFL in the next couple of seasons. I think over the next 3 years, 4 years, he'll, at the end of that, be considered a top 3 running back. I think in his rookie season, he will break a top 10 in the NFL for sure. Maybe even top 5. This is going to be a very special player, and probably the best overall player in this year's draft is Bajan Robinson. Now, there is a complication here, however. The Chargers at pick number 21, I'm really starting to doubt that he's going to be there. I think Bajan could be picked anywhere between 15 and 20. And I think the Chargers, if they want Bajan, are going to have to trade up for him. And that is a tough thing to do, man. Trading up for a running back, that is throwing away a lot of value. It really is. But I got to tell you guys something. With what we've seen this season in Tom Telesco, with what we've seen him do in terms of, it really feels like he's fighting for his job out here. Maybe he knows he's on the hot seat. This could be his last year. He's throwing a lot of things out there that are very uncharacteristic. I think the chances the Chargers trade up even for Bajan Robinson is very possible because of what we're seeing from Tom Telesco. I think if he knows that this might be his last year, I think he's like, okay, let's do what we got to do to go get Bajan. If we don't have Austin Ekeler, let's go get Bajan Robinson no matter what the cost. Let's take whatever we got as far as trade compensation from Austin Ekeler, throw it down with another first-round pick next year, and go get Bajan Robinson. That could be what it takes. But you guys let me know in the comment section below what you're willing to part with in order to get Bajan. Because it could take 2 first-rounders, not going to lie. It could take the first round, obviously, to draft him, and then a first round next year to trade up enough to go get this guy. You guys let me know what you would think. Because this dude could be the next generation. Like the next guy. Like the next dude is Bajan Robinson, in my opinion. And if the Chargers don't have Austin Ekeler, I think there's a lot of reason to believe that we should go out there and grab him. You guys let me know. It's going to be interesting. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This may not even be the last video today, depending on what's going on. I'm anxious to get off of recording this video and go see what's happened in the meantime. But free agency is here. Chargers, all of a sudden, looking for a running back. Should be an interesting way to kick off the free agent market, guys. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. It's got to be Bajan Robinson or bust, right? That's got to be the move.